Aloha and welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii. My name is Neenz Feleafine and I am your host for reaching out. Thank you once again for joining us this week. And I'm really excited because we're going to be talking with someone that I absolutely admire, and I met him playing bingo. He is the design thinking strategist at one of Hawaii's leading science, engineering, and technology firms, OceanIt. Please welcome Raviraj Pare. Yeah.
Thank you.
Aloha. How's
Aloha.
it, Ravi? I'm just going to call you Ravi.
Oh.
And just for our viewers, I'd like you to share what that means, Raviraj.
Ravi, the word Ravi itself means sun,
Okay.
like moon and the sun, the
Yes,
sun
yes.
part.
Yeah.
And Raj means king. So
Oh,
it's
king.
like, well, sun king, you could say that.
Sun
yeah.
King,
Yeah.
if we had to do it literally. However,
Yeah.
I bet there's like, culturally, there's
Culturally,
more to it.
yeah, there is more to it. You could interpret it as a bringer of knowledge or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. Because light is always conveyed as like something which, eradicates darkness and
Yes,
creates
yes,
that
yes.
knowledge and light. And I'm not there. I don't
Right,
know
so-
if I represent my
so-
name that well.
So if I ask you, you give me one meaning. If I ask your parents, they'll give me like this whole other. He is
Yeah.
the king of the sun.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Emulating light across the world. And it's so ironic that you've ended up here in beautiful Hawaii on the island of
Yeah.
Oahu. And so let's talk about that. You shared with me that you grew up in Madikeri, India.
Yeah,
And that's near Bangalore.
yeah, it's close to Bangalore.
Yeah. So tell me about your childhood growing up.
Oh, it was great times. So Madikeri is very similar to Hawaii. The beaches are very far off. It's a tropical jungle.
Mhm.
We grow coffee and cardamom and pepper. And I used to spend a lot of my holidays in my grandmother's place.
Oh.
So it was fun growing up, herding the buffaloes,
Yes.
playing in the fields and
So a little bit different from Hawaii, where
Oh,
we're not
yeah.
really herding the buffaloes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. There are no. Yeah,
However, just the climate and everything similar.
it's very similar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the beach, and I know I asked you because I was like, the beach in India? I guess I didn't think.
Yeah,
'Cause,
it's a huge coastline.
yeah, I think it was. I'm thinking like it's more landlocked, right? I don't
Yeah.
think of beach when I think of India.
Yeah.
However, you said you have a huge fishing community there.
There is a fishing community all along the beaches, both in the east and west of southern part of India. So the beaches starts from somewhere in Gujarat, close to Mumbai you can say, and all
Okay.
the way till Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka all the way to north towards Bangladesh. So it's like a huge coastline.
Yes. And what kind of fish? I mean, just for our local audience who is
Uh,
watching, because we know ahi, right? We know opa, right? From the
Yeah.
Pacific.
I'm not familiar with the fish as much.
You're a farmer?
I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, you're a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yep.
on the other hand, I don't see the similarity in fishes actually in both
Oh.
places. I haven't seen because most of them are freshwater fishes as well
Okay.
in the inland.
Yes.
In the fishing communities, it's crabs and some of the I can't
More
remember what it is.
crustaceans?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. More crustaceans. And
Yeah.
I should have known since we met playing bingo and
Yes,
we've
you're
eaten
right.
how many times together. I
Bunch
never
of
really
times.
noticed that you were vegetarian because I'm focused on me and what I want to eat.
Yeah.
So here you are in Hawaii, you're design thinking strategist, and before we get into the process that we both have come to love and
Yes.
use in our profession and our everyday life, let's talk about at what age did you realize you wanted to go into design? Because you have your undergraduate from Bangalore University
Yeah.
in mechanical engineering,
Mechanical
and
engineering.
then went into product design and
And
manufacturing.
manufacturing.
And
Yeah,
so
it-
like, what were you working on that was like, yeah, that's what
You know,
I
it was, I think it was an accident almost because when I was doing I finished my undergrad in mechanical engineering, I was fascinated by aerospace. I wanted to do something in aerospace engineering, and that was my single track mind,
Yeah.
And I just applied for Indian Institute of Science and Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay for aerospace engineering, and you always have to specify a second option if you don't manage to get the first option.
Yes.
And the second option looked like product design and manufacturing. And I got both of those seats, and I had an option to choose.
Okay.
And there was this student from that university who shared her portfolio with me, and she was walking through the products that she showed and said, actually, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's
The
not
heck with
aerospace. And
aerospace, right? Yeah.
And I just chose to do that, and it was a fascinating journey. The end of 2 years, I learned a lot in terms of what design was and how you need to, like the process of design itself, right? It's a process that you learn most often. But the end of it, I got into an automotive company where we used to design commercial and military trucks.
Okay.
And that was a fascinating journey too.
Sure.
Yeah, it was all about design and
Like
you know
here you are
building
designing
stuff.
trucks.
Yeah,
Who doesn't
yeah,
want to?
yeah.
Right?
It's an awesome field to be an automotive designer. So I did it for like 4 or 5 years, 4 years in fact. And there was a bunch of fascinating projects that I worked on when I was there. It was all dealing with manufacturing. It was dealing with trucks, ergonomics of drivers. So I used to ride around with, you know, in India, drivers are not usually the owners of the trucks.
Okay.
So the ergonomics and the usability inside the cab is very, very minimal. Sometimes you just sell the chassis and the people themselves build the cabin. It's all made of wood.
That is how you get your own vehicle?
Yeah. I mean, if it is a truck, it's not like the
yes.
commercial, I mean, it's not a domestic vehicle, you know.
It's not like how I did with my GMC. I went to Waipahu. I looked at the trucks. I said, let me.
let me have that. Let me build a new body over it.
Yeah,
And, you know,
no.
Yeah, that's how it is.
I definitely wouldn't drive a truck if I had to.
Yeah,
build
but
a
that's
new
how,
body.
and it's interesting because India is very, very diversified country. That means that although the same chassis is built in one part of the country, you have different states having its own design in terms of truck. So if you go to the north, the weather is cold, so you would have everything built in wooden, all like decorated in their own customs, and it's like awesome. If you see the trucks in the north and the trucks in the south, they are so distinct in terms of shape, size, ergonomics, everything.
Yeah. So for those of you watching here and that follow me on Facebook, I'm definitely going to Google it and share some images of the different trucks as compared to my GMC Sierra and see how plain mine looks. Mine looks like everyday person, right? And so you sell these chassis. That's what you're designing.
I was designing military trucks as well as commercial trucks. Some of these commercial trucks would be going into mining quarries, so they would have a completely new set of requirements. Like, say, imagine you wouldn't want flashy headlamps because the 1 week into the quarry, it is all broken.
Yes.
You want something which is low cost, which can be easily be replaced, or maybe shatterproof, and you can get back the truck on the road immediately.
Right. When you're going into the quarry, aesthetics is not important, right?
You need a very good approach angle. You need a rugged vehicle which can be on the road for 24 hours. The downturn should be measured in like 1 or 2%.
Right. So it's almost fun, right? It's like growing up as a child. You get to actually, you know, with toys, you imagine, right?
Yeah.
Building trucks, and then you're actually like building these vehicles, you know. And then yet that wasn't what. That wasn't in the plan. It was just 4 years, right?
Yeah, it was just 4 years. But I had a fascinating experience because the person I was reporting to and working with was previously my professor in the university. So that gave me an opportunity to actually apply whatever I had learned with full liberty.
Okay.
And he would protect me in terms of, you know, I would throw in all these crazy ideas about we need to do this, and he'd say, go try do it.
Yeah. So he supported you because you folks already had a relationship.
Yeah.
And he got it, right? When you're coming out of, I mean, when you're fresh out of the university, right? You think, how am I going to change the world, right? I have all these ideas, and he gave you permission to do that.
And that was awesome. That was really good. I should be thanking him for that. Yeah.
Is he still back home?
Yeah, he's back home, and he's working in the same company. He's working, and every time I speak to him, said, you should come back, Ravi. You know, that's what he says, you know.
Just say, hold on, I'm just living in Hawaii right now. I'll be home soon.
Yeah.
Right. And so from there, you shared with me that you went on this kind of personal journey.
Yeah. So I should say that was like a turning point in terms of at least the direction I was going in terms of career or in terms of my goals for design or what I wanted to do with design. So every year we used to have this international auto expo in India. So from my company, we were building like 5 or 6 trucks, like trucks and buses. And one of them was we were collaborating with Cisco to implement some of the telemedicine and telepresence equipment in a mobile unit. So I worked a bit on that, and we just presented it in the Auto Expo. It was like well publicized, and you know it was good. And soon after, obviously, I had worked did a lot of all-nighters. So I just called up my boss and said, "Oh, I'm going on a vacation for a couple of weeks, and then I'm gone, vanished."
Yeah.
And I went out on this hike, a really long hike in the Himalayas. It's actually a remote community of people in the mountains where the only way in and out is by foot. There are no roads, and you travel in the winters when the temperature is like -30, -40, because that is the time when the river is frozen and you walk on the ice.
I know, when you shared this with me, right, like, obviously, you know, in Hawaii, we don't have frozen rivers, so my risk factor, the fear, the calculations, like,
Yeah.
and you said it's like a 200-mile journey.
Yeah,
Over
both
this
ways.
frozen.
Yeah, over this frozen.
Yeah.
And imagine that the community which is living in these valleys, this is the only way in and out. They have been doing it for centuries, like literally centuries. And that also has encased their culture in an isolated form. So it's very, very unique and very rich. So I happen to travel with the Lama from one of the monasteries.
Okay.
And literally, every step is, you have that fear. It's not that you have seen it, so it's better. Even the Lamas, you have a stick in your hand, you are knocking on the ice and hearing the sound to make sure that it's solid ground that you're walking on. And you actually see people die, in fact. People, I mean, it could be high altitude sickness because it's around 14,000, 15,000 feet. You could slip into the ice and die within a minute because of hypothermia. There is no help. There is no, you will have to go to the nearest village to even find a satellite phone, maybe, if you're lucky.
And then again, this is the only way.
This is the only way, and the only other way you can go in is with a helicopter. That's it. And incidentally, after 2 hours, and on the way there is no restaurants or anything, coffee shops or anything.
Right.
You sleep in the caves.
Yeah, there's no
you carry
like,
your
pit
stuff.
stop.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You carry everything, literally
No
everything.
coffee shop with some Wi-Fi and like a fire burning, right?
No way.
You're just.
You actually collect your firewood to make that fire and
So
keep
I
warm.
find that fascinating.
It
Like,
was fascinating.
talk about like you have to be fully present, first of all, when you're making this journey.
Yeah.
Your mind drifts. You don't know. What the ice is unpredictable.
Yeah. And also, I think it gives you that new look at life, because things are not done. It's not like walking down the hill and to the office and back, where you know that you're going to be back home in the evening. You know that the next step could be the last. That's the kind of feeling you are in. You know that there is a chance. There is something which is out of control, essentially. It's not in your hands, right? The best thing you can do is hope for the best. I mean, that's all you can do. And it gives you a different kind of shift for the way you think about life and think about what you want to do as well. So, well, on the way into these villages, we find this couple carrying a sick baby back to the town of Leh. And the baby was sick, and they've been walking for 3 days, continuous, sunrise to sunset, in the hopes of getting to the town as soon as possible, because they wanted medical help. And it was so ironic, because just like a week ago, we had shown in this International Auto Expo like a telepresence and stuff. But when I think about it, it's very close to zero that they would ever get a facility like that.
Yes.
It is in terms of price or in terms of accessibility or hundreds of other reasons why it cannot happen or wouldn't happen, right? And I was thinking, as designers, like the statistic says that like 98% of the designers in the world work for less than 1% of the population. And whereas, I mean, design is one such profession where you have the liberty to do anything that you want. No two problems are the same. You are always looking at a problem in a new light, and you have the capability to pick from different disciplines and have that solution done, right? And I thought I should do something else than automotive design.
So even though what you created, very innovative, right? Probably the biggest success from that year's Automotive Expo. And yet you run into a family on this journey that every step could be your last, right? You run into this family that tells you, "What are you doing, Ravi?"
Incidentally,
there's more you need to be doing.
I think, I remember now, just when you were talking about it, because me and the Lama, we were having a conversation about, what are the things that, we were just talk storying, you have a lot of distance to cover. You always talk about stuff. One of the things he mentioned was about energy density. Like, they were looking about, like, the only way you can have power there is by solar or hydro plants. When the ice is frozen or when the water is frozen, you don't have any hydro plants running. So only source is the solar, and you cannot still hold charge in the lead acid batteries. And the temperature will make sure that you cannot hold the energy for long.
Right, because it's too cold.
Yeah, the problems of this world is so different from what we are usually tackling in the cities, or
Yes, and you're talking to someone just flips a switch, And so I can only imagine all of that, but yet so fascinated and so very humbling, and it keeps me grateful. We're going to go to a commercial right now. When we come back, we're going to be still talking with Ravi, and he's going to take us from his journey on the ice to the Himalayas and take us all the way to South Africa before he gets to Stanford University. Mahalo.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back. My name is Neenz Feleafine, the host of Reaching Out, and I'm here with my friend Ravi, that I met playing bingo, and then just adore for his mind and just his complete beingness. And Ravi, so last we were here before commercial, you had us on the ice hiking into the Himalayas, and then yet your journey somehow leads you all the way to California, sunny California, to Stanford University.
So, okay, to continue that story then, so I was thinking at that point I need to do something else than automotive design, which probably wouldn't, I would be doing similar kind of stuff which may not actually reach the people who would really need it. And I quit my job at that point, and I was thinking of I was wondering what to do essentially, right? Thinking of doing a startup or pursuing a PhD or just traveling around,
Yes.
And what I saw was I was looking at programs around the world of is there anything interesting to study which would fascinate me, and I stumbled upon this Nat Geo magazine, probably from November 2010. I think they had just this one.
Shout out to National Geographic.
Yeah, thank you, Nat Geo.
Continue to inspire people around the world.
And they had this 10 products which was changing the world, like in terms of social innovation, right? And I was exploring each of those products online and found that 4 or 5 of them were coming out from this program in Stanford University called Entrepreneurship for Extreme Affordability. I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
first of all, the program is just innovative itself.
yes,
right?
it is. Yeah.
I mean, you just don't find it at every university.
No, it's very unique because the program is set up in such a way that there are like 7 professors to begin with, and they all have their different skill sets. And the professors don't say, this is the way you need to do these things. This is what you do kind of thing. They just lead you through the process. And in the span of like 2 or 3 weeks, you would have done so much of research on the problem itself that you are the expert. They just guide you through the process. And it's in the trenches work, actually, because you are dealing with real people, real users with an organization in the ground. And so you are more committed and more you can relate more to the people you are designing for. That makes you think differently, work differently, and committed to the project even more. So, well, I filtered down all the universities which were out there because most of them were teaching the design processes, or it's like an enclosed, safe environment to design. Like, okay, you design a table or a chair or with a specific ground where you are learning the skill sets of being a designer.
Not necessarily processes.
No, not necessarily processes. They teach it in several aspects. I cannot say that it's not completely not taught because it's changing as well. It's evolving. And so I just applied for this one university and I did not want to do the same course again in a different flavor, perhaps.
Right. And 5 out of 10 of the products that you saw came out of Stanford.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
If you were looking for an omen, a sign.
Yeah,
there it was.
Yeah, there it was. So at that point, I also had the fascination of traveling, and if I were not planning to study, I would have probably continued traveling or exploring. I always am fascinated with new cultures and people, and most of my travels are not place-based. It's more of the experience thing, where I just take the turn wherever I want to, and camp out next to the street, and meet people, spend time, even either cook with them, work with them, or whatever. Like you just have a destination and you just wayfare. I think that's the word, wayfaring.
Wayfaring, yes.
Yeah. So I was always thinking about doing a motorbike ride to explore, and and a lot of things led to change of plans, and eventually I ended up starting a bicycle journey from Cape Town.
Just on your own?
Yeah, it was on my own. And incidentally, my brother was supposed to join me on that trip, and that was the whole reason why I switched from a motorbike ride to a bicycle ride, but he could not join me in the end. So there I was with a 2-man tent, equipment for 2 people,
Yeah.
with 1 bicycle, and assembled everything together
Town.
in Cape Town and started my journey north. Which wasn't a long journey, actually, in aspects of real adventure bicycle touring, because there are a lot of people who cross continents. I just traveled through 2 countries. One was South Africa, and I went north and crossed the border to Namibia, and then went into the desert in Namibia and rode to Windhoek. And it was a fascinating experience. It was.
And
it was
all
good.
this time, Stanford's in the back pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, Stanford was in the back pocket, but the it was a lot of different experiences in that particular ride, and I was always thinking maybe I should not go to Stanford and continue just traveling, because it would have given me such a rich experience. Knowing what I know about Stanford University now, I think if I had called them and told, can I come next year and I'm traveling, they would have definitely said yes.
Yeah.
I did not know that at that point, unfortunately. But
Right. You're thinking like,
at
I
that
gotta
thing,
go.
I had to make a choice. Either I travel or go to Stanford. But actually, I could have done both. But I did not.
Yes.
And I ended up in Stanford.
You traveled differently. Still traveled.
I still,
ended up coming to California.
Yeah.
And
sunny
that is
California.
where, you were introduced to the design thinking process.
Yes. And until then, I had not even heard the word design thinking or any of those things. My idea was, I'm going to this program which teaches me about designing for the real world. I mean, my focus was entrepreneurship and extreme affordability. In fact, you could be in any department inside Stanford University and still take that course.
Yes.
It need not necessarily be in the design program, actually. But luckily, I was in the design program, which was even better because I had an opportunity to dive deeper into the process itself. For 2 years, we work on real projects just like this, and learning each step of this process.
Right, and
really
so
deep.
your curriculum is actually literally changing the world.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Because the end result,
Yeah.
the product that comes out or the service
Yeah.
is actually for a real life client. It's
True.
not just theory,
No.
like
no.
what ifs,
Yeah.
which is usually what other universities
Yeah.
focus on.
There are many, there are not to that aspect, to that extent. It's not to that extent. There are a lot of universities following the same patterns now, learning, because design thinking spreads around so fast, and it's all open source. You actually give out all the material that is created
Yes.
out to the open world. I mean, you would have people conducting workshops in remote places in Africa or anywhere through web, or it's so wide open. All the content is open for
Right.
anybody to use.
I was introduced to the process in about 2009 from Ian Kitajima from OceanIt.
Yeah,
And
Ian.
when I first heard the first step of this 5-step process was empathy, I was in. Like, I've never heard of a process that begins with
people.
empathy.
Yeah.
I can do empathy all day, like just listen to people and feel them. It was almost odd, like that coming out of Stanford University that they're teaching this. Like, if we gain more empathy, if we give more empathy, then perhaps we could solve more problems of the world.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense when you
Yes.
say it,
Yeah.
and yet escapes so
Yeah.
many people, right?
It's so hard because I think Ian puts it really well. He says, if you want to stand in someone else's shoes, you need to take off your shoes first. Right? We always have our own assumptions about what people need, or what if I were in, like, it's all assumptions essentially. Just to keep aside our assumptions and really listen to people and understand where they are coming from, what are the things that they're asking. Listening to that is a skill, but it's something which can be learned again.
Right.
You have tricks and processes to make sure that you can do it.
Right.
Some people gifted like you are naturally, are like that.
Well, even for me, like I would have said, like, I have great empathy, and then yet my biases, right? Based on life experiences or my own personal judgment, I can hear that
Yeah.
voice, and so
Yeah.
for me, it's calming, like quieting that bias and just simply listening.
Understanding,
And then you realize,
Yeah.
my assumption is wrong.
and
And being excited about it, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I was
Yeah.
wrong. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That now I know what the client needs or what the people need.
Yeah.
And you can really change the world.
No,
with that.
it also changes you, in fact.
Right. I always say, once you learn the process of design thinking, it's very difficult not to use it because your mind now
things
wants to
differently.
go,
Yeah.
No, do empathy first,
Yeah.
even for myself as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
I want to assume, like I've told you, right? Like, how might I get my son to clean his room,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realize I'm too close to the issue. Let me ask Ravi, let me ask someone else outside. Like,
How do I get this done?
I need someone to gain more empathy for me,
Yeah.
from my son,
Yeah.
so I know how to get him to,
Yeah.
and it's just an everyday. I mean, it's not just in these big innovations. However, this process can be used to.
Yes. And I think, process is an amazing thing. I recently realized the real benefit of having a process, right? The process when you think about ideas or innovations, we have this wrong notion that it's an event. It just happens like that.
Yes.
It's not so. It's a process. There is a path towards that, right? But when you have a process to that path for the innovation, all of a sudden you can teach it, you can learn it, you can control it, you can have a group of people working on a process. It gives you so much tremendous power. Not to say that people don't use some kind of a process to come to innovation. Innovation has been happening, right? It's just that it's not done mindfully or thoughtfully in a sequence. So when you have a process, it liberates you so much more. You just have to trust the process and go through the steps. In the end, you'll have something better.
Right.
It may not be what you are having in mind as a solution, but it's something better.
And when you talked about, you just mentioned that, like, one of the things that's important is trusting the process.
Yes.
Right, trusting the process. I even find for myself when I apply design thinking, there's a part of me that wants to jump from empathy to prototype, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know what they need.
Yeah.
Right. It's again
Yes.
calming my
Yes.
own personal bias and or tapping out, right? K team.
Yeah.
Like, my mindset is not there.
Yeah.
Like, let's bring in someone else to actually do it.
And there are some. It's interesting because it happens often in the team when you are talking to a person trying to understand what they really need, and you have an idea in mind. That happens to us naturally all the time. And there are tricks and ways in which the process flexes itself to accommodate that. So imagine you have an idea, you want to do something prototype. But when you do a prototype, there is another mindset in design thinking where you always do a low resolution prototypes.
Yes.
You make multiples of them as well.
Yes.
So you have an idea, make something rough, have it aside. Either you can think on new ideas or take that to the user in that low resolution because you have invested so much little resources and time on it.
Yes.
You get the feedback. It's like, again, you're back at empathy to develop something better and new.
Right. In the fourth step, prototype, it's like fail cheaply, fail
Fail quick,
fail
fail
early,
often.
fail often. To me, like, when the process tells you, like, fail cheaply and often, it gives me hope. Like, okay, so I just got to take it back to the client. Is this what you're thinking of?
Yeah.
I'm in and out of construction paper or trash that I
Yes.
found
Yeah.
on the side, in the corner of the office. And then they give you feedback. Again, you
Yes.
gained empathy, and
Yes.
you're right back into the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, you throw away that prototype. What you are keen on is learning more from that prototype. This is not the thing. What the person says is the thing
Right.
that you are keen on.
And when we talk about the process, here we are getting empathy. I had a client, and they wanted to know what's the innovation needs, right? What's the end result? They wanted it quickly, and I said, well, first of all, the innovation is empathy, guys. Because when was the last time you asked your employees how do they feel about the processes you have in place already? So innovation is already happening when you start asking the right questions. And then we go right into the second step, which is define.
Yes.
Talk more about that.
Okay, so so in all innovations or anything successful in terms of a product or a service, you have three entities everywhere. You have the people element, you have the technical element, you have the business element. We have business schools to teach business part of it.
Yes.
You have technical schools like engineering schools to teach about technical part of it. But many times we lack the people part of it. And it's not that one element is bigger than the other, but you have huge, just like you said, innovation starts with that people. You have a higher chance of hitting that innovation if you start with people.
And each component, like you said, has its weighted value.
Yes.
And without it, it's imbalanced.
Yes, imagine this. If you have a fantastic idea and a business process to go along with it, and now you have to push it down the throat of people.
And nobody likes it.
Yeah, it's a harder task, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, if you know what a person needs and you can develop the business and the technical element for it, you don't have to push that. If people want it.
Right. They're
and
waiting
that's
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned about the define part of it is the second thing. when you look at all these 5 processes, the first half of it, the empathy and the define part, doesn't talk about the solution at all. There is no solution in that part. You are only thinking about the problem. So many times, as soon as we are faced with a problem, we try to go to the solution.
Right, too quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, too quickly.
And define allows you to just define the problem, right?
Right.
But to define the problem, you want to understand the people involved in that problem, like understand their point of view. So once you get the empathy, you define the problem, right? And that's the step of defining.
Right, and if you don't do that second step, the other steps are very, very difficult.
Yes,
we're going to take a commercial right now. And right now, we're talking about innovation and the process of getting to an innovative solution. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Ravi. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday. Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back to Reaching Out. I am Neenz Feleafine and I'm here with my friend Ravi. We're talking about the innovative process called design thinking. It's human-centered. First step is empathy. We're talking about the second step, which is defining the problem. And Ravi, that is the most, for me, the most challenging. Is really defining the problem based on the empathy, not based on self.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important. That second part of it, not based on self, is very important because you are trying to focus on what is the need of these people you are designing for, because that defines what you design, right?
Right.
And we often find that in the workshops that we teach, people have trouble with the defining part, just like you mentioned, in fact. So the way to overcome that is through iteration. And design thinking lends itself for iteration really well. So all these 5 steps, although it is framed as like a process, you can go again and again throughout that process.
Yes.
So you define the problem, you have the process to test it out, and you can redefine it again based on your new knowledge. And that's where the phrase fail early, fail often comes to picture. So it's okay if you define the most possibly the wrong definition. It's okay to go ahead with that, and you just define the problem, develop a solution. Okay, to go to the third step, perhaps after you define, you have a perfect launch board to develop ideas for that particular problem.
Right.
The ideate part of it. You could have hundreds of ideas. One of the saying goes like, you create choices before making choices. So that's why you want.
I like that. Create choices before making choices.
Because often we just jump into making choices. Whether I do this or this or this.
A or B.
Yeah.
Or just one.
Yeah.
I only have one choice. Or you hear it often, right? People say, I don't have any choice. Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a choice.
You have so many, you just can't see it, right? Yeah. Or you choose not to see it.
It's like...
And that's a choice.
That's a choice, yeah.
That's a choice,
it's a
right
choice
there.
not to see anything. For like in ideating, you churn out hundreds of ideas, because the best way to have a very good idea is to have lots of them to choose from.
Right.
Like there is another saying, me and Ian were discussing this today morning, like you cannot find a new hole by digging the same hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
Right? You are looking for a new hole by digging the same hole deeper. It's just impossible.
Yeah, it's the same hole.
Yeah. So you should have many different holes to find a very good one, like different ideas, right? So with ideate, you pick some ideas for potential, not feasibility again, and then go to the next step, which is about prototyping.
Yes.
So you have a bunch of ideas. You are picking some of them for potential, not feasibility again.
Right.
And
I always say, don't fall in love with that idea.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Don't fall in love. No. And then you go across towards developing the prototypes.
Yes.
Now, like I mentioned, prototypes. The initial prototype will be of very low resolution, which is like you said, like the construction paper thing, right? You want a physical representation of the idea. It's just a tool to gain more insight into the problem and the solution.
Yes.
And that's the prototyping part.
Right, and prototyping, can be with anything.
Oh, yeah.
When we have our prototyping supplies, when I'm, in facilitating workshops, it's really anything. I'm often looking for, what are you dumping? It's a prototyping material. So when people are watching you, you're thinking about prototyping, we're not talking about prototyping an app, so it's got to be displayed
No,
on a phone.
no.
We're talking about construction paper, cardboard,
Yeah.
glue,
Yeah.
tape, duct tape, whatever you have.
Yeah, it's just you use the material around you to represent your idea, because you can communicate much more efficiently. You can get more information from whatever you build. And like say, imagine in the first iteration of your step, you have 10 different ideas made from construction paper.
Yeah.
You get so much of feedback. The next one can be of slightly higher resolution,
Yes.
which depicts more about the wireframe of an app, or the more representation of a functional part of a product, or a camera, or any of those things, right? You can
Right.
represent those things. So step by step, you are increasing the resolution of the prototypes, or
Yeah.
the quality of the
The
prototype.
quality, right? And when we talk about the last step after prototype and its test, for me, it really is empathy.
It
all
is.
over again.
Yes,
right?
it's in fact, you very well said. It's just like testing is all about empathy, because you are not selling your prototype at that point. Neenz, this is fantastic. You should just buy it.
Yes, right.
You are letting the user do most of the talking, saying why they like it or why they dislike it, or what are the different things that can be done. You are observing as well, not just listening to what people say.
Right, and it's just giving them permission to give you like authentic feedback.
Yes.
Don't get caught up in, because I don't want to hurt
Oh,
Ravi's feelings,
Yes.
I'm not going to be honest. No, I really need that.
Yes.
Because I'm not in love with this
Yeah,
prototype.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mentioned about the Himalayan thing.
Yes.
One of my first projects was designing a sled for the Himalayan village.
Yes.
In one of the projects. It's very interesting in Tibetan culture or in Buddhist culture. The lamas are so good that they'll never say something bad about the stuff that you have done. Here's a problem, right? How can you just get some
Okay,
feedback?
right.
So one of the good tools is having 2 or 3 prototypes. I asked the Lamaji, which one do you like the most, or which one do you like? And they're all good. I mean, like, so then you have to ask them, okay, which one do you like the most, right? All of a sudden, you have so much of conversation going. Why do you like it the most, or why do you don't? How can I make this better? So, it's just a tool to elicit more information, with no matter who it is, right?
Right, and giving them permission, right, to
Yes.
give you that honest feedback.
Yes.
And then that's where innovation happens, right? When you, as the designer, are grounded in who you are, that any feedback, it doesn't make you flinch. It
Yeah.
makes you improve, right?
Yes.
It makes you grow,
Yes. Yes.
right? So it's not really for everyone. It is for everyone, and then yet not for everyone, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, the empathy part, test part, love it. Except the prototyping part, not really something I'm excited about. And so that's why you need a diverse team. So let's talk
Yes.
about that, yeah.
A diverse team is very, very important. It's like, because all of us have different life experiences, skill sets, thoughts about what is best, what is not good. And when you have a process or a team synergy where you can build upon each other's ideas, you have amazing potential to come up with solutions. Amazing potential. Like we have started using this word in OceanIt called co-creation.
Co-creation.
Right? It's not about collaboration alone anymore. It's not about, Neenz, what do you think about this one? Kind of feedback. Like you give me advice or seeking help on advising. It's about coming to the table together, working on stuff together, where you are bouncing off with the ideas from each other right away and building on the stuff on construction paper or tongue
Whatever
rippers
it
or
is.
anything,
Yep.
whatever it is, you are developing stuff together. And that's why you have flexible workspaces. The workspaces are changing to accommodate that kind of behavior.
You know what that just reminded me of, this co-creation? We played a game as children where you got to say like one word, or maybe it was a drinking game.
That sounds
You
more
got to say
fun.
one word, and basically you were building a story that went around.
Yes.
Like you're co-creating, co-authoring
Yes.
this story. So it's hilarious what's in the end.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, you have to contribute
Yeah.
to.
Think
build
of
it.
that particular thing. It's also, we use it as a stoking game, like just
Yeah.
before things.
Yes.
Imagine that you have, like, there is a group standing in this. I think you are talking about the same game. Like
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
have a group of people standing in a circle. You
Yes.
say a word. I just say the next word.
Yeah, and you just
And if you think about as an individual in that game, I am just accepting whatever you are saying and adding something to it.
right.
Not even judging.
it.
I'm not
yeah,
judging.
Not judging it. Right.
And in the end, somehow it always makes sense. I mean, I remember playing this game once, and we had this fascinating statement coming out of it, which was like, there was no way we could have come out of it with a logical,
Yes, yes, yes.
reasoning or
Yeah.
anything, but it sounded good.
And you couldn't write it yourself, right?
no.
It had to be
No.
this co-created,
Yeah,
co-authored
yeah.
kind of project or statement.
Yes.
So Ravi, what is next? The movement is slowly happening with design thinking within here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And now you're here, and you know, you're working with OceanIt, evangelizing it too. What do you think the future is like? What's next
I think
for?
it's amazing. It's fantastic time for design thinking or anybody with this process for innovating or anything. Especially like when the economies are changing and going towards experience being more important than the product itself or the technology itself. And when you talk about experience, it's all about users. You want to design for users, and the process is one of the best shaped process to do that.
Yes.
Right.
And when you talk about experience, like you're really once again right back to empathy, right? Because it's you're
True.
almost like codependent on human beings, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And in this relationship, that it truly is a relationship between your product and the person.
Yeah.
And it's like that
Yeah.
in between part that you're
Yes.
designing for.
Yeah.
You can't even see it.
And you are putting that person in the center of everything that you're designing. You are not saying that here is my cool technology, buy it.
Yes.
No, here is how I can help you with where do you need help, and designing the technology and providing that, or not even designing the technology, but shaping that entire thing around it. Like we always, talk about the economy of experience, like experience economy in terms of a birthday cake, right?
Oh.
Where in the olden days, your mom would cook the birthday cake based on the ingredients that you have at home. That's the agrarian economy. That moved on to the industrial economy, right? Where what is it, Betty?
Yep, Betty Crocker.
Yeah,
you
Betty
get the
Crocker.
box,
You get the box,
Yep.
and it's mass produced, and then you come
spread on the
to service industry where
Yes.
you would buy it from the bakers, and they
Right.
would probably deliver it home, right? And that changed to experience economy, where you would have companies like McDonald's or anywhere where you can have the experience of a birthday. It's no more about the birthday cake. The birthday
Yes.
cake probably comes in for free somewhere on the side,
Right.
but you are paying for the experience.
right.
It's designed for the experience.
It's so true. I just was having this discussion at home, and we're like, the wedding cake, yeah.
You pay for the wedding as a whole now. It's no
you
more.
pay for the wedding, and then you get a cake.
Yeah, cake
Right,
is
it's
just
not-
for free
yeah.
on the side.
Right, because it's about that
Yeah.
whole experience. So what's happening new at OceanIt? We have a few minutes. Like,
Ocean-
share the things you can. I
Okay.
don't want to get in trouble.
It's always a hard question to answer when you say, "What's new in OceanIt?"
Yeah.
Everything is new.
Everything,
Like,
right, yes.
even after a year, I've been there for a year now, a little more than a year, and even today, sometimes I stumble upon people who are talking about some new fascinating thing in the
Yes.
kitchen or on the way to the restroom, and we end up having a fantastic conversation like there's something new happening.
Anything you can share with us? I mean, just so you folks know, like I am a former team member of OceanIt, so I have some bias and a lot of love for the organization. Any project like specifically you can share with us?
Okay, let me talk about one project that we're working on, which is this innovative material, which it's called a super absorbent polymer, a fabric. In fact, we're designing for the Marines to dry out their shoes, like the Marine shoes. In terms of the product, it's fantastic. I mean, when you think about the Marines who are in the trenches with wet shoes, you have a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to dry it.
Yes.
Right. So we have this.
Well, the last thing you want to do
fantastic
is not have your shoes on.
product. Yeah.
And when you're in battle, it's not like
Yeah.
you can just have an extra pair.
So we the team in OceanIt has designed a fabric which can just go into the shoes, and it can dry out the shoes within 5 to 6 hours. And
Wow.
it doesn't use any power. It's passive, and also we are looking at how else can you use it. It's not just
I
this
have an
one thing.
idea how else you can use it. Dry off my surf shorts, right? So
Yeah.
that I can go from, like the water straight to work, a lunch
Yeah.
date, like anything, right? Like
Yeah.
dry off my clothes
Just to
quickly.
give you an example how empathy can change the way we design stuff. I recently had just was having an interview with a Marine, a female Marine, and she was saying that, you know what, you should think, we often when we are in the ship, we always call the days in the port, we get some days off, but that is when we call it people time kind of thing.
Okay.
And that is when they need they carry their makeup and all these
Yes,
things
yes,
going
yes.
into the port, and they would want an easier way to dry their hair.
Yes.
Can this dry their hair? I don't know. Yeah, we
A
can make it
towel,
do.
absorb it,
Yeah.
something like that. Thank you so much, Ravi. We are out of time, and I could spend so much time talking to you. I will see you again because we have our annual bingo game.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'll be there.
This holiday season. Thank you so much for joining Ravi and myself. I hope that you have gotten some idea of the innovative human-centered process called design thinking. Aloha.
Aloha.